Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is a live morning space for artists, filmmakers, musicians, and creators who are navigating the real world of making art. On this show, we talk about positivity, not the fluffy kind. We talk about what actually stops artists from moving forward, the struggles we all face, and how to move through them with clarity and purpose. We'll also highlight good things happening in the industry, share ideas, suggestions, and practical advice, and most importantly, have honest conversations. This is a live show, so if you're here, feel free to ask questions or join in. This is a place to reset, get grounded, and start the day moving forward as an artist. And good morning, everyone. Welcome to the show. John Henry Soto here from Nashville, Tennessee. We are live. We are a little frozen. We've had some interesting weather. Couldn't get on yet a couple of days this week. One was a power outage that we had. Another one was freezing temperatures where we couldn't really get this house warm. But we are back. It is actually warm. The house is everything is on. We are, thawing out, as they say, and things here in Nashville are going well. Just want to give a quick shout out to the mayor of Nashville, Tennessee. Just he's doing a great job with his team out there, and it's just really a joy to see a mayor out there. He's out in the streets, and it's just really been good. And I want to also say to NES, the Nashville Electric Service workers, and all the workers that are out there right now, helping kind of get the infrastructure back up again, because Nashville doesn't really have the infrastructure. As it's a very cliche thing to say when we're talking about storms in Nashville and in the South and places like this, but we just don't have that set up that way because it doesn't happen that often. This is actually the first. I've had people who've been here for 20 years, a very long time, say that this is the first time they've ever seen anything like this happen. So this is a very, very unique, unprecedented situation that's happening here. So just a great job to everybody out there. And yeah, man, we're getting through it. All right. Well, today I'm going to try to do a show on censorship without being censored. How's that for a interesting challenge? Um, one of the challenges that we all have in as artists is being able to communicate honestly about what our thoughts are, about what's our art about, what are we creating that we think is so important that we need to put out into the world. Is it moving people forward? Is it getting people to think? Or is it something that's safe and getting people to think exactly the way everyone wants to think, or certain people want to think? So then there's no growth, there's no challenge, there's no straining of your mind to try to figure out is something right or wrong. Everything is very clean, very neat. You say exactly what you're supposed to say. You do exactly what you're supposed to do, and you don't challenge the status quo by any means. Is that what life is about? Well, an artist operates opposite of that. Artists, we challenge the status quo. We we make sure that our vision is uniquely enough that's interesting for those that are out there, maybe facing a challenge themselves, that it can actually help engage them. It could help challenge them. I mean, that's what we do as artists. We challenge. And in recent years, well, about 10 years, maybe a little more, it's been incredibly challenging. We talk about being people, people going to, having their accounts taken away, having their accounts censored. Facebook prison is a real thing, right? I've been in it twice. And it's been one of those challenges to try to, because then as you're creating, you're like, can I get away with this? Can I say this? Is this okay for me to say? And that's not really your authentic self, right? Because you've already censored yourself. If you come up with it and you're saying, yeah, I'm gonna say this, and and you start thinking, well, I don't know, can I get away with this? Well, then the platform that you're thinking of saying that on It's certainly not a freedom platform, right? They have their restrictions, they have their certain things. And, we didn't lose our artistic integrity all at once. It was negotiated away quietly, piece by piece, under the polite language of guidelines, best practices, and risk management. Censorship no longer arrives as a blunt force. It comes disguised as concern. You see, that's how they actually disguise it. They're concerned. They have certain guidelines that we must follow. And artists, we learn very quickly, which words trigger the silence, which questions close doors, which ideas get you labeled difficult or unsafe. In that environment, self censorship becomes a survival skill, which is what I just mentioned. That's self censorship. Now you're censoring yourself because you don't even know what you can say, or you do know what you cannot say. So you start censoring your own art, and that becomes a survival skill. We stop asking what's true and start asking what's allowed. And that subtle shift is where integrity begins to erode. When you lose your artistic integrity, you've lost it all. You're no longer an artist. Now you're a puppet to the system. Now you're a creator of what is safe. You're a safe creator, right? You're a news anchor on a network. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Both sides have their restrictions, right? Both sides can't. They don't allow you to say certain things. Some are have a little bit more freedom now than others. I get that, but some are very, very skewed in one direction. And when you're skewed in one direction, you don't get to see the other side. So you don't get to really make your own judgment. Remember that? There's a funny young comedian. She made a thing saying about how they did this thing back in the old days. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It was crazy. It was this thing that they used to do. It was called critical thinking. And it was back in the old days, where you see one side of the issue, you see the other side of the issue, and then you make your own choice on which side best fits your integrity and where you fit in, and then you move forward. Well, that idea, and she was very funny. I wish I could remember her name, but she was very funny, and you probably Google that and find it out. But that idea of having two visions or two ideologies, and looking at both and taking what you like from each and putting together your life journey, that critical thinking has been stripped away from artists in a very, very cruel way, too. Because imagine putting out a piece of art that you are very proud of, whether it's a video, a film, a photo, a meme, uh, an article that you read. I was put on. I was put on a timeout simply because I shared an article that was written by a large publication, very, very large, one of the largest in New York City. And I just shared it, and I was taken down because of it. So, you learn very quickly that what you can and cannot say on certain platforms. But then again, you also move away from those platforms to put any artistic integrity into them. And now those platforms become just very, very weak places. They don't become anything challenging. You know who goes on there? People who enjoy, wrestling and who enjoy just making comments about how the old days were great. Remember back in the day when we used to get ice cream at this place and we used to ride our bikes? And that's where what it becomes. It doesn't become any challenge. It doesn't become anything thought provoking at all. It becomes a space where it's just a lot of fluff, and it's a fluff space. And when it comes to speaking about things in, like items like DEI and other cultural mandates, the pressure is especially intense. I mean, you really get intense when you start talking about certain things like DEI and other especially Hollywood, that's been very, very, very pushing it to failure. Actually, I mean, they've shown that it doesn't work. They've taken that model and they've lost billions of dollars on these films that have bombed and tanked because people no longer are really, they don't see it. It's being forced and you can feel it. Even though you think you're doing the right thing by balancing things out, you're forcing something that people really don't need and really don't understand either. you know so because it's being forced, certain actors have to be put into certain roles and then have to be given lines that they would never really generally say, and the casting is off, and the storyline is weak, and you put all those together, I don't care how much money you throw to it, it's just not going to get the attention that people are like stories. People are interested in storytelling. This is why some big major films, the one with The Rock came out not long ago, great film, nominated. It's all these amazing validations have been given to the film, and yet the film tanked because you know a name can't carry a film anymore. So if you attach a film to a name to a film, you'd think that the name alone, back in the old days, right, if Jim Carrey was in a film, it didn't matter what the film was about, people were going to go see it. So he demanded $20 million per film because that's what he was going to bring in, regardless of what the film was. That kind of seems to be over. There are some uh, you know uh, um, some movie stars that can still draw, and some that just no longer can't. you know, and very few. I mean, there's the Brad Pitts and the Tom Cruises and the Scarlett Johansson, but then even Scarlett Johansson, who I love and is fantastic, had a film that she was leading about a year ago, which didn't go anywhere, and then she was at a franchise film, which was the dinosaur film, the Jurassic Park, which was a huge hit because what sold that? The dinosaurs sold it. That it wasn't just the actors, right? And this has become something that Hollywood is now kind of figuring out, and they're backpedaling. But as much as they can backpedal, they've gone so far into it that it's very difficult for them to get out of this at the moment. As you can see, Hollywood, most of the films aren't even made in Hollywood anymore because of costs and because of other things. But I think that they've managed to. I think they're trying to repair it. I think Gavin Newsom has approved a couple of incentives for films. I think it's 750 million, which is not really enough at this time. Unfortunately, it's something. It's at least going in the right direction. But because it's been beaten down for so long, I really don't think that it's enough. Um, it is making a slow comeback. I don't know how long it's going to take, but with all other studios being built across the country and brands now having their own studios, I mean, companies, brands that don't normally are known for. I make this, I talk about like Kellogg's, for instance, right? Now, this isn't true. I'm just kind of like speculating here, or just using them as an example, but there are companies like Kellogg's that are now bringing in their own film crews into their own ecosystem and generating the content within their own walls, meaning they make their own commercials, they make their own social media posts, and some will even be generating film content, like actual digital format content for verticals and other original narrative storytelling that they will actually be generating on their own. So all of this is really putting a strain on the Hollywood system. And, unless you understand how to really balance that, and I've been reading so much about this and studying so much about it, that it really makes you realize that, being able to come to the table with stories and with a direction for a brand or a production house that brings you in as a director or as a vision, a supervisor or as a creative director, whatever the case may be, if you go in with that idea and understanding what they really need, which is now storytelling at the highest level without any kind of uh, strain, DEI strain, or anything like that, then you become really valuable. You know, the topics that you need to bring to the table need to bring that brand into the attention, right? And they need attention. That's how that's how, money flows towards attention. So when you have a lot of attention, money flows towards it, right? That's what a commercial is. That's what a social media ad is. Right? That's what a newspaper ad used to be and still is to some degree, right? A billboard, right? Billboards work, right? It's very hard to calculate what the ROIs are, but they work, right? Somebody driving by, they see a billboard. Oh yeah, I need to get some chicken. I need to get some Tyson chicken. Tyson, another huge brand. They might have their own in-house film studio where they'll make their own content, and who knows, there'll be a film, a love story about, brought to you by Tyson. It's gonna happen. Entertainment is the number one commodity that people have when it comes to even watching commercials. Do you remember watching the old commercials? Where's the beef? All these things. They were just entertainment. That's all they were. Had nothing to do with the product, really. It was the fact that we were laughing. Time to make the donuts. I'm dating myself now with all these old commercials, but these are the ones I grew up with, and the ones that I still to this day remember. The Band-Aid commercial with the the theme song. Um, Oscar Mayer, remember the theme song for Oscar Mayer? I'm sure some of you out there at a certain age bracket can still sing it. These topics, like the DEI and all the cultural mandates, are treated less like conversations and more like settled doctrine, where deviation, even thoughtful critique, is framed as moral failure rather than intellectual disagreement. See, we used to have intellectual disagreements and everyone walked away just fine. You had a meal with somebody, you disagreed, you had a great conversation, and you went home. Remember that? Now, the idea of being canceled was a thing, right? Now, again, this is going away a little bit. This is more of a conversation now, today, for me here to talk about how it is melting away and how that people aren't putting up with that garbage anymore. They're just saying what they have to say. And if you don't like it, okay, that's fine. You can go home. Go live in a bubble. I don't want to live in a bubble. I want to live on earth. I want to live in the world. I want to experience things, whether I disagree or not. I want to be able to see them. And then I make a judgment. I want to be able to have that right. And as artists whose job is to explore contradiction and complexity are instead expected to perform compliance, nuance gets flattened, dissent becomes taboo, and silence is rewarded. The result isn't progress, it's a narrowing of perspective that undermines the very diversity of thought DEI claims to protect. See, all of this is going against what it's trying to protect because it's segregating everything. We need this there. You need to be this shade. You need to be this tall. You need to be this round. You need to be this dark. You need to be this light. You need to be this type. This is what we need for this to work. Well, isn't that goes against the whole thing? How about who's better for the actual job? Is that still a thing? Do we really, really need to identify that? Whoever is the best for the job should get the job, no matter what shade they are, right? This used to be the whole thought of everything until this whole thing came about. And by the way, this is not the last 10 years. This has been going on for a very long time. I was watching a clip yesterday, my brother sent me actually, of All in the Family. And it was an episode where Archie is talking to George Jefferson, and they were at a party, and a whole bunch of dramatic things happen in it. Very, very funny, for the time, very, very funny. But can you imagine trying to get away with that today? You couldn't get away with that today. You'd be censored so fast. You'd be shut down so quickly. You have no chance whatsoever of surviving that. Art has always been dangerous because it asks uncomfortable questions and refuses to resolve tension neatly. But when censorship, external or internal, dictates the boundaries of expression, art turns into messaging and artists into mouthpieces. Integrity isn't lost because artists lack courage. It's lost because the cost of honesty has been made deliberately high. That's the cost that we have to pay now. It is incredibly high, and the risk is losing your art, losing the ability to create your art. Now, of course, we have these platforms. And by the way, these platforms that we're all on right now, that we're all enjoying, are all temporary. AI is building platforms and opportunities that are coming much faster than we can even juggle them. So there'll be other platforms where freedom will be much more accessible, where you can have your point of view and not be penalized and not be put in a corner, right? Or punished. And it's going to happen. So these platforms that we're all enjoying right now, they're going to change. They're going to evolve. They're going to be purchased up, like X was purchased. We got Rumble. We have Parlor. We have there's a lot of them that unfortunately like they're labeled as like conservative now for some odd reason, but it's only because conservatives were not allowed to say certain things, and now they are. And then the other side has their platforms, right? Their MSNBCs and CNNs, the failing ones, unfortunately, right? And I think they're failing because they're just not allowing the mix up. Let's mix it up. Let's have all views here. That's what it was before. Remember the news back before certain things were signed back in 2012, I believe. I think it was Obama that signed it into office, um, where the news can have a certain level of propaganda. You can research all that yourself. Just go to Google or go chat GPT and Google the policy that Obama put into place. You can read all about it. It's all in there. And things started changing. They started shifting, and now the news can say certain things. They can lie. See, before it was slander. You can sue somebody for slander. So if they said you were this and you're not, you can be like, hey, wait a second. You can't just go around saying that about me. That's slander. And you can have a court and you can sue them. Now that's still a thing, but nobody does it anymore because these platforms and these media outlets are so massively huge and control so much of the narrative that they have all the money in the world. So you can't even battle them, but they are being battled now, and I think they're losing the battle. And you can see that by the numbers. I mean, you have somebody, like CNN, their viewership is down to like 500,000 or something, per night. Where you have somebody like Joe Rogan, who allows guests just to come on and say whatever they want to say, is getting 11 million streams. People say, well, he's a podcast. It doesn't matter. He's actually bringing in humans. If he's bringing in 11 million downloads per episode, and this other network in its entirety with all their programming is bringing in 500,000, doesn't matter that it's what format it's on. People have such a down thing on this, and yet this is where everyone is going. Everybody's going on their phones. Everybody's going streaming. Everybody says, well, it's not a real network. What are you talking about? All the real networks are on here now. They're streaming. Why do you think Netflix is trying to buy Warner Brothers, and then Paramount is in there, and they all have their streaming platforms, right? So what are you talking about? See, CBS, ABC, NBC, they all have streaming platforms. They all stream their shows and everything. So of course it's all real. It's happening because they're numbers. It's a numbers game, right? And reclaiming it means accepting friction. When we start reclaiming these platforms, it's going to mean that we're going to have friction. People are not going to like it. People are going to, we're going to rub the industry the wrong way, or at least those platforms. But being willing to risk misunderstanding, rejection, and criticism, Because without that risk, art stops telling the truth and starts asking for permission. This is what we've been doing for the last couple of years, where we've been asking for permission. Can I put this on here? I don't know. Am I going to be censored? I don't know. Or we just go onto other platforms and we do it, right? And that's what we have been doing. And I tell you that it's been going really great. And these smaller platforms, yes, they're smaller, but they are massively growing. They're growing massively fast, incredibly fast. People are realizing I can say more of what I want to say from whatever side of the aisle you're on, because you might want to be saying things that are on the left, that and then you say one thing that's a little bit more right leaning because it's a rational thing, and then suddenly you're censored where you're like, you know what, the hell with this, I'm going to go somewhere else. That's why a lot of these platforms are losing followers. They won't tell you that they're losing, but you can go look at these yourself. People are starting to go out. They want to start having real experiences now. Nobody wants to put on a pair of glasses and and have the world shoved into their eyes. Eventually, maybe everyone will. Just like in the beginning of credit cards, nobody was, people were like, nobody's gonna have a piece of plastic in their wallet and to actually and swipe away their money from some electronic thing. Nobody's gonna do that. That's what they said at the beginning. Go back and look at that. Read those articles. People were not interested in these credit cards, right? Does anybody not have a credit card these days? We all have them. We all have debit cards and credit cards, right? Because it softens, and the risks become less. And that's what they're looking at with this technology, forcing it. You got Elon Musk injecting things into people's brains. You got Mark Zuckerberg with the glasses. "Oh, look, you can have everything right here, and you can look, and you can have your computer, and you can talk to people right while you're walking." Well, what? What? What are you talking about? Just relax. It's technology. It's just fun. We're kind of it's great for communication. It's great for expressing our views, and that's pretty much it. Showing projects and films and inspiring each other and having a great communication. I mean, I got nieces and nephews that I barely have seen in their lives. Some I don't think I've even seen personally, but I've watched them grown up because we're living in different parts of the country, and it's just hard to get around, right? It's just an excuse. We should all make time, but this is where it is. So I enjoy it. I enjoy being on these platforms, but they are going to evolve. They are going to change in a way that's going to allow creativity to once again be free and be able to express your views without feeling that Big Brother is watching. All right, friends. I want to thank you all for tuning in this morning. As always, we're I'm always excited when I'm here. Love you. Go here. Just to kind of end off on a positive note and send you off on your day, on your Thursday. Today is January 29th. We're at the end of the month already. I feel like I just said Happy New Year. We're at the end of the month already. It's incredible. But, we are so blessed to have these outlets where we can communicate our views to one another. We can inspire each other. I've met so many people on here that have said thank you. Some things that I've posted, memes. I had one person say that I don't do it anymore, but I used to post a positive meme every morning. I still post positive things in the morning, but this show is one of them. I've kind of expanded a little bit in that area. But they said they basically look at this in the morning and that's how they kind of get their day started. And I thought to myself, yeah, that's only one person, but what a responsibility. And I realized, wow, what you say and do on these platforms can really inspire someone, make them think, and give them some hope, give them something to look forward to. And that's really what we want. We want to be able to inspire each other. We want to be able to build a society where our kids can live freely, they have the things that they need, can be free to create whatever they want to create, and create a life for themselves and for their children and their children and their children, and continue this wonderful thing we call living. I want to thank you all for tuning in today. God bless you all. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other, because we are all we got with each other. God bless you all. See you tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Central. And as always,